When my brother's fiancée demanded $15,000 from me as a wedding gift, I actually laughed. I thought it was a joke. But she wasn't joking. When I refused, my parents called me selfish and kicked me out of the house, all to make their future perfect daughter-in-law happy. I stayed silent. I didn't attend the wedding. But the day after the ceremony, chaos broke loose because neighbors found boxes of expensive wedding gifts dumped in the trash. Rings. Envelopes of cash. Designer items all ruined. The newlyweds were shocked. My parents were furious. And when the truth came out about who did it and why, it didn't just destroy their wedding, it shattered my entire family. Before we continue, subscribe and please tell us where you are watching from. We love to see how far these stories travels. The evening was quiet when my phone buzzed. It was a message from my brother's fiancée, Clara. Is greater than, "Hi Nora, can we talk about something important?" I smiled. We weren't close, but I tried to be polite. I thought maybe she needed help with wedding plans. So I called her. Her voice was calm, sweet even. "Hey Nora," she said. "So, Ethan and I are finalizing the gift list for the wedding. We just wanted to include you in the family contribution." "Of course," I said. "What do you need?" There was a pause. Then her voice changed. "Well, we were thinking you could give $15,000 as your wedding gift." I froze. For a moment, I thought she was joking. "15,000? I laughed softly. "You mean 1500? "No, dear," she said. 15,000. Ethan and I agreed it's fair. You have a good job, and this is a big event. It would really mean a lot to us." My heart sank. "Clara, that's not a gift. It's what family does," she interrupted. "Your parents already said they support the idea. They believe you'll want to help your brother start his new life." I went silent. I could almost hear the pride in her tone, like she believed she was doing me a favor by letting me be part of their perfect wedding. "Clara," I said quietly, "I'm sorry, but I can't give you that. It's not about money. It's about principle. A gift should come from the heart, not from pressure." She let out a long sigh. "So that's your answer?" "Yes." The next day, my mother called me. I could tell she'd been crying. "Nora, why are you embarrassing us?" she said sharply. "Clara told me everything. She's been so hurt by your attitude. You know how important this wedding is to our family." "Mom, it's not about the wedding," I said softly. "It's about what's right." "What's right," she snapped, "is standing by your brother. We've done everything for you, and now you can't do one thing for us?" Her words stung like fire. I tried to explain, but she hung up. That evening, I drove home to talk to them face to face. When I walked through the front door, my father's expression said it all: disappointment, maybe even shame. He didn't yell. He just said, "If you can't support your brother, maybe you shouldn't be part of this family moment." Clara was there too, sitting beside Ethan, holding his hand like she owned him. She didn't even look at me. I turned to my brother. "Ethan, do you really think this is okay?" He avoided my eyes. "Clara's right," he muttered. "You've always had savings. You can afford it. Why make it a big deal?" I wanted to scream, but the words wouldn't come. I just nodded slowly. "I see." My mother crossed her arms. "If you can't behave, maybe it's best you leave. We don't need negativity in this house before the wedding." That was it? No argument, no shouting, just cold rejection. I packed my bag that night, clothes, a few photos, and the small necklace my grandmother had given me. No one stopped me. When I stepped out of the house, the street was quiet, the porch light dim. I looked back once, hoping someone would call my name. No one did. I walked away, carrying nothing but silence, and the echo of a family that had just chosen pride over love. The room I found was small, barely big enough for a bed, a desk, and a chair that squeaked every time I sat. But it was quiet, and right then, that was all I needed. The first few days after leaving home felt unreal. I kept waiting for my phone to ring, for my mother to apologize, for Ethan to message, for someone to ask if I was okay. No one did. Instead, social media was full of updates about the wedding. Pictures of Clara in silk robes, smiling while bridesmaids fixed her hair. Captions like, "Blessed to be marrying into the most amazing family." My family. Every photo felt like a small knife. They looked so happy, my parents standing proudly beside her, my brother beaming like the luckiest man alive. And me? I was just a shadow they'd erased. I worked longer hours at the small design shop where I'd been employed for 3 years. It was easier to lose myself in sketches and colors than think about the silence waiting at home. One evening, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, I saw Mrs. Dorsey, our elderly neighbor from back home. She held a small bag of groceries and smiled kindly. "I heard what happened, dear," she said softly. "Parents make mistakes when their hearts are full of pride. Don't let it harden yours." I invited her in. She looked around my tiny room and sighed. "This is cozy," she said gently, though I could tell she was trying to make it sound better than it was. We shared tea while she talked about her late husband and how forgiveness always brings peace. Before leaving, she touched my hand and whispered, "Keep your dignity, Nora. Silence can be stronger than revenge." That night, I cried quietly, not because of the money or the house, but because someone still saw me. Days turned into weeks. I didn't attend the bridal shower or rehearsal dinner. But sometimes, I'd walk past my parents' street after work, just to see the lights through the window. Laughter floated out, Clara's voice loud, confident, perfect. She had filled every space I used to belong to. I noticed small things in the photos she posted. The diamond necklace my mother used to wear now sat around Clara's neck. The piano I'd saved up to buy for the house now decorated with E and C initials. Every piece of me was being replaced. Still, I didn't speak. I sent a simple message to my parents on the morning of the wedding week. Is greater than, "I hope everything goes well. Take care of yourselves." No reply came. That weekend, I baked a small loaf of bread in my tiny oven, something I used to do for family gatherings. The smell filled the air, warm and bittersweet. While the world celebrated my brother's love story, I sat alone, staring at the flickering light bulb above me, thinking about Mrs. Dorsey's words. Maybe silence really was stronger. Maybe it was the only thing I had left. But deep inside, I felt something shifting, quiet, heavy, like a storm waiting behind calm skies. I didn't know it yet, but the piece I held onto so tightly was about to be tested in ways I could never imagine. The morning of the wedding came with soft rain. I woke up to the sound of drops hitting my window and the faint hum of music coming from somewhere far away. It took me a moment to realize today was their day. For a while, I just sat on the edge of my bed staring at the small loaf of bread I had baked the night before. It was supposed to be for family breakfast, like old times. Now it just sat there, untouched and quiet. I tried not to look at my phone, but curiosity won. When I opened it, my social feed was already full of photos and videos. Clara looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine, her white gown sparkling under soft lights, her hair in perfect curls. My brother, Ethan, stood beside her, smiling that same uncertain smile he used to wear whenever he was forced to choose sides. The captions read things like, "Is greater than a fairy tale wedding. The perfect couple. The Blakes finally find their dream daughter-in-law." I stared at one photo for a long time, my parents walking Clara down the aisle together. My mother was crying. Not for me, but for her. I put my phone face down on the bed and tried to distract myself. I washed the dishes that didn't need washing. I straightened my blanket again and again. Nothing helped. Finally, I went outside. The air smelled like wet soil and roses. Someone nearby must have planted new flowers. Across the street, Mrs. Dorsey sat on her porch, holding an umbrella and knitting something in her lap. When she saw me, she smiled softly. "You're brave for not going," she said. "It's better to stay where your peace is." I nodded. I didn't want to ruin their happiness. She looked at me for a long moment before replying. "Sometimes happiness built on hurting someone doesn't last. Don't worry, dear. What's meant to shine always finds its light." Her words sat with me the rest of the day. As the hours passed, the rain stopped, and the sky cleared into a golden evening. Somewhere far away, music and laughter echoed from the wedding hall. I imagined the lights, the clinking glasses, the smell of perfume and champagne. Meanwhile, I sat in my small room with a cup of tea and an old photo album, one that still had pictures of Ethan and me as kids, smiling with missing teeth and sticky hands from ice cream. Back when love in our family was simple. Around midnight, I saw another wave of wedding photos appear online. The gift tables, the champagne tower, the big thank you post from Clara. Rows of wrapped boxes, cash envelopes, Gold jewelry gifts worth more than what some people earn in a year. She stood beside them with a caption. Is greater than, we're so grateful. Everything we dreamed of came true today. I stared at that photo for a long time. Something about her smile didn't feel real. It looked practiced, like someone trying too hard to prove a point. Then, as I scrolled, one small photo caught my eye, blurry, taken at night by a guest leaving the hall. In the background, near the service entrance, someone was dragging boxes out of a door. Dark boxes. At first, I thought it was staff cleaning up. But a strange feeling passed through me, one I couldn't explain. I put my phone away and turned off the light. I told myself it was nothing. But somewhere deep in my chest, I felt that the story of this wedding wasn't over yet. Something was waiting in the shadows, and soon it would make itself known. The next morning started like any other Sunday. The city was quiet. The air was cool and still after the night's rain. I was making tea when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mrs. Dorsey. Is greater than, turn on the news, dear. You'll want to see this. My stomach tightened. I grabbed my phone and searched for the local page she mentioned. There it was, a shaky video taken by a passerby near the wedding hall. Dozens of gift boxes and envelopes lay scattered by the dumpsters behind the building. The reporter's voice said it clearly. Is greater than, guests are shocked after expensive wedding gifts were found dumped in the trash just hours after the celebration. The incident is being investigated. I froze. On the screen, I could see the same wrapping papers from Clara's photos, gold ribbons, white boxes, and glittery cards with E and C printed on them. Everything was there, ruined, wet, and thrown away like garbage. My first thought wasn't anger. It was confusion. Why would anyone throw away gifts worth thousands of dollars? Within an hour, the news spread everywhere. People were talking online, sharing photos and gossiping in the comments. Some said it was a mistake. Others said it was drama. But everyone was curious. Who would do such a thing? By afternoon, my parents' neighborhood was buzzing with whispers. Mrs. Dorsey called again, her voice shaky with disbelief. They're saying the gifts were found early this morning, she said. Cash envelopes, jewelry boxes, perfumes, even a few designer handbags. All destroyed. The hotel staff said they didn't throw anything out. I could hear people shouting in the background. My old street had never been that loud. A part of me wanted to stay out of it. But I couldn't help picturing my mother's face when she'd hear the news. The woman who'd once said, we don't need negativity before the wedding, was about to face something much darker than negativity. By evening, Ethan's name started trending online. Someone had leaked the guest list, and others claimed they saw Clara arguing with the hotel manager that morning. I tried to ignore it, but then a new message appeared, this time from an unknown number. Is greater than, hope you're happy now. Are you proud of what you did? My heart dropped. I didn't reply, but I knew what that meant. Someone was blaming me. Maybe they thought I wanted revenge. Maybe they believed I had gone there at night to destroy everything. I hadn't. I didn't even know where the wedding hall was. But truth didn't matter anymore, not when people needed someone to blame. That night, I couldn't sleep. The sound of cars outside felt louder than usual, like the city itself refused to rest. In my mind, I kept seeing those boxes, the ones Clara had bragged about, now lying soaked and ruined in the dirt. It didn't feel real. It felt like something out of a dream, the kind that starts soft and turns into a nightmare before you wake. Still, part of me wondered who would gain from this. Who hated that perfect image enough to destroy it completely? I didn't know the answer yet. But deep down, I could feel the walls of our family beginning to crack. And once the truth came out, nothing would ever be the same again. By the third day after the wedding, the story was everywhere. Newspapers, blogs, and gossip pages couldn't stop talking about the $200,000 wedding disaster. Everyone had a theory. Some blamed jealous guests. Some said the hotel staff stole the gifts. Others whispered the family had enemies. But none of those stories were true. The truth came out quietly, through someone no one expected, Mrs. Dorsey. That afternoon, she showed up at my door again, her face pale, hands trembling. Nora, she said softly, I think you should hear this before the rest of the world does. I let her sit down. She took a deep breath and told me everything. That morning, she'd gone to return a serving tray to my mother's house. Inside, she found my parents sitting at the dining table, faces gray, eyes red. They were arguing in low voices. From the sound of it, the truth had already broken their world. It started with a hotel worker who finally confessed what he saw. The person who ordered the boxes to be taken out and disposed of wasn't a stranger. It was Clara herself. Apparently, after the guests left, she discovered that many gifts were from the wrong people. Simple items, not designer. A few envelopes with smaller amounts. She called them embarrassing. In her own words, she didn't want cheap things associated with her wedding photos. So, in her anger, she told the staff to get rid of everything that didn't fit the image. They obeyed, scared of losing their jobs. And by morning, everything had been thrown out. But when people noticed the missing gifts, she panicked. She tried to blame the hotel, but the truth was already spreading. Someone had recorded her giving the order. That video was now everywhere. Mrs. Dorsey paused. Her voice broke. "Nora, your parents are humiliated. Ethan hasn't been seen since yesterday. They say he walked out after the video leaked." For a long time, I didn't speak. I didn't feel joy or revenge, only a deep sadness that sat heavy in my chest. Later that evening, I received a message from my mother. It was short. "Is greater than, we were wrong. I'm sorry." Just 4 words, but they felt like an entire lifetime. I didn't reply right away. I sat by the window, watching the sky darken, thinking about everything that had happened. The demand, the fight, the silence, and now this. Clara had destroyed herself with her own pride. Ethan had lost the woman he thought was perfect. And my parents finally saw what pride had cost them. That night, I walked past their house again. The lights were off, the decorations gone, the flowers wilted. Through the window, I saw my mother sitting alone, holding her phone, crying quietly. I didn't go in. Not yet. Forgiveness takes time. But as I stood there, I realized something. Sometimes you don't have to fight for truth. Sometimes it finds its own way out, even when you stay silent. The next morning, I placed a loaf of bread on their doorstep, warm, soft, the way I used to make it when we were still a family. I didn't leave a note. They'd know it was from me. And as I walked away, the sun rose behind me, not bright, but gentle, like it was giving us one more chance to begin again.